Welcome back to Journey of a Fearless Female. I'm your host, Paola Rosser, and my guest this week is Gina DeVee. Her journey from broke, struggling psychotherapist to globe-trotting entrepreneur has led her to founding a multi-million-dollar women's empowerment company called Divine Living. Divine Living is for the woman who craves a deeper spiritual connection, dares to be visible, and desires to impact the world by fulfilling her life's purpose. Gina is the author of The Audacity to Be Queen. She's a speaker, podcast host, and transformational coach. She has dedicated her career to helping women across the globe connect spiritually, start businesses, create wealth, and live life to the fullest. Gina's mission is to uplift women and entrepreneurs through inspiring content, feminine and spiritual principles, and life-changing events. You can learn more about Gina at divineliving.com. Everybody, please welcome Gina. Hi.
Hey. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited to hear about your journey as a fearless female. How did it go?
It has gone. It has gone, that's for sure. And it's always humbling to be asked this question, because it wasn't that long ago when I was a broke, struggling psychotherapist and living at home with my parents at the age of 30. And at least it doesn't seem that long ago in my mind's eye. And like any woman listening, I'm not unique in that I had a big dream for my life. And yet I was looking at myself. I did everything right. I went to college. I got the job. I, worked hard to pay off my student loans. Well, I hadn't paid them off at the beginning of the journey. But I was broke. I was making $2,000 a month. I had $75,000 worth of debt. I'm seemingly watching everyone else live the dream. And I just thought, I was taught if you worked harder, you'd make more money. And I kept working harder, and I kept taking on more clients and more side gigs and just paying the minimums on credit cards. Like the overwhelming debt never seemed to go anywhere. And after about a year and a half of being a therapist, I was just burnt out. I was like, I hated helping people, which was a terrible place to be. And especially when it's how you earn your living, let alone just being a cool human. And I thought, you know what? I'm done with this. I'm going to move to LA because everybody there seemed beautiful and wealthy. And I'm going to become a life coach. And my parents were like, are you kidding me? You're going to give up your license. You worked so hard for this. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm going to keep doing more of the same and do what? Life coaches can charge in packages.
Yeah.
So I get out to LA, and rather than being consistently broke as a psychotherapist, I got to now be neurotically broke as a life coach, because any day I could have sold a package. But so I came up with a $6,000 package, because I think that was basically my bills for the month. I thought if I just get one client a month, I'll be at zero again. So it'll be great. And it sounds really sexy, except when you sell one every 4 to 6 months, not so sexy.
Mm-hmm.
So I now became a depressed life coach who landed in LA with still all of the debt, better weather. And someone called me and was like, hey, do you want to go to a free seminar? And I said, sure. It was free. I had $100 in my bank account. I put $20 worth of gas in my car, drove down to Orange County. I walked in, The Secret had just come out since like circa 2004, and everyone was talking about The Secret. And I looked at that, what was then a DVD, for a significant amount of time. And normally I don't contemplate a $20 DVD purchase that extensively, but when it's 20% of your net worth, you're going to take a beat.
Yeah.
So I was like, but being the risk taker that I am, I'm like, I'll take the CD. So I have $60 in my bank account. My credit's ruined. I get my 3-ring binder that they were handing out at the time in my book, and sat in the back of the room, and I saw all these people being happy. And it had been so long since I felt like energized and happy. And I just had the weight of all this debt and money struggle on me. And this dude walks out, and he's like, you're never going to live a full life unless you're abundantly rich. And I was like, ding, ding, ding. And like everyone always said, don't focus on the money, and money doesn't buy happiness. And something I wrote about in my book, I'm like, it's all it does. It only buys happiness. It doesn't buy all happiness, but that's all it does is buy happiness. Where did poor money got such a bad rap? Anyway,
poor money got bad rap.
I started worrying about wealth consciousness, and there's no lack of money in the world. Mm-hmm. There's no lack of money for everyone. And my vibe was going up, and I was like, wow, I was like, this is amazing. And I like started they're teaching us how to make bold and statements. And I like declared I would never again say I'd love to, but I don't have the money. And I was believing and feeling that all things were possible for me. And I said I would never again struggle with money again. So in one of those multi-speaker events, and the next speaker came up and she was a woman. I'm like, yes, girl power. And she goes and does her thing. I'm like, oh, I'm so buying whatever she has to offer. Like, this is amazing. I'm going to have a life again. I'm going to learn how to finally make money. And then she sells a $17,000 coaching package from the stage. And I'm like, $17,000. I'm like, I don't even know anyone who ever had $17,000. My parents were school teachers. I'm like, and if I had $17,000, I was thinking I wouldn't even need a coach. Like, what is
I wouldn't be sitting here in this conference.
Right. And I'm like, well, I got this. I'll just do the payment plan, Avi. And I walk up to her on the break and I was like, you do a payment plan, right? I'm like, hi, I'm Gina. I'm going to be your next star student. And she's like, nope. And I was like, this is the problem with rich people. Like, why wouldn't they just let me into the program, be the star testimonial, show everyone how great they are? Anyways, there was her assistant was there, and I filled out the form with all 16 numbers of my debit card with expiration date. And I handed the form in and I said, you give me 2 weeks before you run that card. And there's another $10,000 package from some other woman. And I was like, I took that one too. And I was like, so with my $60 in my debit a card and filled out these order forms. And then I and all my new tools that I just learned, I put my 3-ring binder under one arm and the DVD under the other arm and drove back to LA. I see myself with $30,000 in 2 weeks. I can feel $30,000 coming into bank account in 2 weeks and 1 week and 5 days and 4 days. Well, 2 days before the deadline, I'm working with this. I did marriage coaching, obviously not business coaching. So I was doing marriage coaching, and the dude, we'll call him Bill, was like, Gina, this has been great. The marriage coaching is awesome. I'm like, great, Bill. I'm glad your life has changed, because mine hasn't been yet, but yours is. And he's like, I was thinking of having you coach my sales team. And I freaked out because I knew he was a business owner, but I always had to stay so far away from any business conversation because I needed him to know I didn't want him to know I was an absolute idiot when it came to all things business. I'm like, well, Bill, what exactly do you sell? And I was proud of myself. I thought that sounded like a really smart business question. And he says to me, basement waterproofing.
Oh, God.
I'm like, literally,
really?
Oh God.
Out of all the things,
not look that different than I do today. I'm like, are you serious, universe? Like, basement waterproofing sales director, Gina DeVee. Well, how many people are on your team, Bill? He says 10. I'm out. I don't know what to do with it. I've asked every intelligent business question I knew to ask. I didn't know what to say. I had no strategy. I had no game. I didn't know she who speaks first loses. I didn't know any of it. And he says, so what do I do? Buy 10 of those $6,000 packages of yours?
You're like, yes, absolutely.
Avi, Bill, that's exactly what you do.
Here's the order form.
In 2 weeks, not 30, but $60,000 came in. So that was my first financial miracle. And it really set me on the trajectory for entrepreneurship, for growing my wealth consciousness, building a business. And there's been other ups and downs and highs and lows throughout the year, but that really gave me my start.
That is amazing. What an incredible story. I love the book, The Secret. That's actually what got me started in my life coach path too. But what would you tell women who are saying, well, that's good for you. Mm-hmm. How is it going to work for me? Because, you know what I mean? Yeah. People are always saying that, well, that's good for you. It worked for you, but it's not going to work for me. What would you say?
So excited about someone else's miracle, can't you?
Right? Where's the miracle for me? Like you said to Bill, great Bill, but how is this going to help me? Right?
Well, manifestation is a formula. And, it wasn't like, I grew up in a pretty traditional environment. I grew up in kind of like a religious community of sorts, and traditional Midwest values. You go to college, you work hard, you save for a rainy day. Everything's expensive. You don't even know how much it is. It's just expensive.
You got told no many times. No, you can't have that. No, there's food at home. No,
right,
no, you
exactly.
can't go.
And so, God bless the people that raised me, and the other adults in the community that I learned from. They just didn't know what we're blessed to know today about manifesting. And, I'll share some of the tips here. I write about this extensively in my book. And it is no different than a recipe for making pasta. Anyone can learn to do it. We've got to take the mystery out of it. Everybody is worthy of it. And when you learn how to make money in the way that's aligned for you, it gets to become joyful and effortless and easy. And when I say effortless and easy, it doesn't mean there's no work to it. It just means it doesn't feel like work. When I launch programs these days, like, it's fun and it's exciting because I'm in love with what the content is and the lives that are going to be changed and the way that I'm working, whether it's in a digital space or at a luxury retreat or an in-person event. And so that's what I really want everyone listening to dial into, is if there were no consequences or limitations for you, like, what really is your vision? What is your passion? Because only 1 in 100 people statistically actually even know what they want. And that's why people aren't getting what they want. When you're so clear on your vision, I don't care how wild, zany, wacky it is. You like that story. There's 17,000 more in the book about transformation stories from me, from clients, from every walk of life. Like, manifesting it's really neutral. It's kind of like electricity. It doesn't matter who I am. If I go and switch my electrical, if I flip the electrical switch, the light's going to go on. It doesn't matter if I'm doing something good in the room, if I'm doing something bad in the room. Like, that is the formula for getting light into the room. And when you learn about manifesting and starting from vision and getting into a feeling place and learning how to see it in your mind's eye and getting yourself to be the vibrational match of the vision, it is a formula and it works every single time. Now, what people get tripped up on, and what I got tripped up on and still do to this day, like, I'm still learning. It's like, I've manifested a lot of things, and I have a lot that I haven't manifested. And if I haven't manifested them yet, it's because I haven't yet become the vibrational match.
Yeah.
So one of the big things that I see people getting tripped up on is being unclear. Another one is going for some sort of should, like, oh, well, I'd really like to do that or manifest that or experience that. Like, that would be great. Or I saw so-and-so do it. Or, like, they kind of think that's as good as it can get. Like, for example, recently I was obsessed about moving to New York City. I lived in LA for a long time. Then I lived in Miami. Felt like New York was the next obvious chapter in my life. And I really do love New York. And so I went and I pounded the pavement 3 months, couldn't find anything that I really loved or was in love with. And I thought, well, I'm just going to go to Europe for a few months and I'll come back in November when everyone's kind of settled down. It's less competitive and I'll get something then. And when I was in Europe, I'm like lit up morning, noon, and night. I'm like, but not too early in the morning because it's like Europeans sleep in and have a cappuccino basically until 11 a.m. But anyway,
nice. I like that schedule.
Everything about me, like, I love it in Europe. And when I got to Italy, I was like, Gina, why are you not moving here? Like, why are you not? And so I realized I spent so much time pounding the pavement in New York because I was thinking that I needed that to be the place. And I thought, well, Italy's in the future. Like, one day I'll have an Italian farmhouse and one day I'll move to Italy. And I didn't give myself permission to do it right here, right now. 5 weeks after being in Italy, I found like the beyond the dream home. Like, it's all happening. I'm going in like 8 weeks.
Nice.
Boom, boom, and done. So it takes a process to get to know ourselves. And it's also a process of learning to give ourselves permission. I mean, people thought it was crazy, including my husband. It's like, you don't have a house in the US. What do you mean you're just moving to Italy? I'm like, I'll get one later. I'm like, I'm getting our second house first. Like, roll with me. Like, all these like other people's ways of doing things. And since then, I bought a house in the US, and that's fine. I've got a base here, and I get to take a stand for the and. So it's this piece around self-permission and knowing yourself. But for so long, we've been taught you can't, and that's too much, and it's too expensive, or it'll take a long time, or somehow we've made up it's okay for someone else, but not me. That's like the biggest crock out there. If it's okay for someone else, it should be okay for you.
Yeah. Do you believe, like, as you were a psychotherapist before, so you've actually talked to a lot of people and listened to their social and inner dilemmas.
Yes.
Do you believe that it all has to do with, like, first, because I, as a life coach, I used to teach before I started as a life coach to teach people how to get out of debt and to pay off their debt. But then I realized that the underlying factor is like all this trauma, all this pain, all the shame and the guilt and the feeling of unworthiness and not being good enough. And I feel like sometimes that also is a block for people to try to manifest bigger money, because as a life coach, I do the same thing. I make them do a vision board. First, they've never even heard of a vision board. I'm like, how come you've never heard of the vision board? How come still in 2022, you've not watched the movie The Secret? Yeah. That's like their very first assignment. Watch The Secret. It's free. It's on Netflix. But when they create their vision board, I say, okay, how much money do you want to make? And then they're like, $100,000. Are you serious? You can have all that you want from the infinite spirit, God, the divine, and you're asking for $100,000. Like, challenge him, like, ask him for more, And it's like, I feel like there's this underlying thing that like holds a lot of us back as human beings because we don't feel worthy enough. And even like when you watch people who win the lotto, they end up losing it all. Do you believe the same thing?
Every man's greatest fear is, do I have what it takes? But every woman's greatest fear is, am I worth it? Am I worthy? And so we get to change that narrative. We get to be the women who decide and declare for ourselves that we are worthy. And one of the things that I believe that's just a through line in all of my work is the double blessing. When someone wants to make 100,000 or however much, or someone wants to live in Italy or launch their Etsy store or their dream business or whatever it is, it's not just about you, and it's not just about the money you're going to make and the joy you're going to have with however you're sharing of your gifts and talents. It's about also you and the recipient of it and all the people around you that are going to be inspired or lit up by you living your passion. So, you being a life coach, it doesn't just benefit you. Your clients are greatly benefited because they get to have a mentor who is you. So everyone's got to understand that when you declare yourself as worthy and you're going and manifesting your dreams and you're listening to podcasts like this and reading the books and investing in mentors, that you're blessing yourself and you're being a blessing in someone else's life.
Yes. Let's go back to your comment when you said money gets a bad rap, because honestly, I really do believe that. I was watching this other podcast where he was saying, you have to fall in love with money, but we've been all programmed to believe like money is the root of all evil. And, rich people are, they even have eat the rich now. It's like all these different sayings for you to feel bad for wanting more.
Okay. So the scripture is the love of money is the root of all evil. So it's not that money is the root of all evil. And when you get into the translation of the Greek language, which is the primary language that Jesus spoke at the time, there's 5 different forms. There's 5 different definite words for love. And that particular form is worship. So really the translation is the worship of money is the root of all evil. And that I agree with. But there are so many, if you want to go scriptural on me, we can do that because I grew up in fundamentalist Christianity and I have recovered from that. And I do know the scriptures. And it is above all, I desire you to prosper. It's delight yourself in the Lord. He will give you the desires of your heart. Seek first the kingdom of heaven, and all of these things will be added unto you. So there's all kinds of prosperity scriptures that talk about how spiritually aligned it is for us to live in abundance. I came so that you would live life and live it abundantly.
Yes.
Got to focus on source. Money is just a byproduct of you showing up in a really high vibrational way. Now, when I was so focused on money, when I was in debt, that just got me more debt, because you get what you focus on. And I was afraid that money wouldn't come in, so I got more money not coming in. And right now, I don't focus on making a certain amount of money. I focus on my actual desires. Now, my desires just happen to cost a certain amount of money, and that's not really my business, right? But when you focus on your desires and are unapologetic about that, and you are being the vibrational match of the actual desire, money is irrelevant.
How do you become the vibrational match? Like, for example, if you grew up poor or always in debt or always struggling, and that's the only vibrational match that you know, how do you change that feeling to become that wealthy match, that rich, abundant match? How can someone get themselves into that vibrational?
Seeing it and feeling it as if it were already done. Like who would you be if you moved into that home, if you sold out that class, if you attracted the love of your life, got the book deal? Who is that person, woman, etc.? And when you are living as that woman, as if it is already done, you will literally magnetize it to you.
How would somebody, because I've had clients, I make my clients go and do these things, like go to the store and try on the purse, even though it makes you feel uncomfortable. Some people will feel so out of place, like they don't belong there, that they don't even want to even attempt to go into the store or go to the party or show up at the yacht club or whatever, because they so feel like everyone else is judging them or feeling that shame. How can you turn that thought process around to become that confident woman, that queen that has the audacity to be there?
Yes. You got to love yourself more. You got to love yourself more. You know, when you study who's in that Gucci store, when you see, like, they're either no different than you or they're no better than you. When you see who's given themselves permission to experience the yacht or any of that, my private coaching started out at like $25 a life coaching session. And when I first heard that there were six-figure packages, skip the $17,000 ones, I was like, these people are idiots who are buying these packages. I mean, if you have $100,000, why would you? Like, I just couldn't even understand it. And I got myself in the room and I started going to the seminars, and I would sit next to these people at lunch that were selling these $100,000 packages. The next week I did too. My packages have been over six figures for over 10 years now, because I realized they were no different than me. The only difference between me and them is that they gave themselves permission to step into that frequency.
Beautiful. I love that. All right. So as we wrap up this episode, what would be your nugget of wisdom for anyone who is listening right now?
Oh, I don't want to sound cliche, but believe in yourself came up. Hold on, I got to give you something better than that. It's not better. There actually isn't better. I just don't want to sound like I'm at the Grammys right now. Hold on. Nugget of wisdom. Be your own number one advocate. Like, just like go after that dream like your life depended on it, and do not stop or quit.
How can my audience find you?
Come on over to divineliving.com if you want to get the book, which I wish I had time to share so many more stories. You'll get like checklists and lessons and exercises all in the book. divineliving.com/book. And you can get the free companion course to the book, divineliving.com/Audacity. You don't even have to buy the book to get the free companion course, though. I think you should get the book. For companion courses, videos, and workbooks and all that good stuff, I've got the Divine Living podcast. You can subscribe or follow me on Instagram at Gina DeVee.
Yes, follow her, ladies. I did a little digging before this podcast, and she interviewed one of my favorite people, Gabrielle Bernstein, and she also has her foreword written by Jen Sincero, who wrote the book. You're a badass. So you must get this book.
She was a coaching client. That's how she was
nice. I would love to talk more with Gina, but she has a hard stop. But I really appreciate you for being on the show. And ladies, if you're listening, she is definitely living a divine life. And if you want that, I highly recommend going to her website.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you again for listening to Journey of a Fearless Female. I'm your host, Paola Rosser. If you love this episode, make sure to share it with your friends. You can find me on the internet at fearlessfemale.com, on Facebook, The Fearless Female Movement, on Instagram at Fearless Female Podcast, and don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. And ladies, remember, we have the power to rise and face everything. Until next week, goodbye.